Okay. So yeah, so let's get into it. So this is a an initiative we launched back in 2019, where each year we run some research on our own behalf, looking at particular consumer trends in the Irish marketplace. So this spring season, we are looking at consumers in Ireland across a range of different topics, but really looking at it by generation. So there's quite a lot in this, and I think my main focus of this presentation is actually almost guide you into how to interpret the data, if not actually explain every single statistic in it. So we're looking at this particular session is the second in series. So last month we had a session on spending trends in the Irish marketplace. So we really looked at what were the priorities for consumers across different categories, where were they spending money, and what were the triggers to that. And in this briefing, we are now looking at triggers to brand engagement. So I think most of us are probably strong in terms of brand. However, as we look at the differences between those younger age groups, Gen Z, which has had a lot of attention over the last couple of years, we had Gen Y, millennials as well. It's really trying to help understand how brands can engage better with these different age groups. So the agenda, which I'll just quickly go through, we're looking at, I suppose, emotional connections across the different age groups, interaction and participation, so how to keep consumers and customers engaged to enhance loyalty and advocacy. Personalization, I think any of those, any of you that are dealing directly with consumers know that personalization is important, but can be really difficult to do in terms of relevance of content and advertising. And then just at the end, obviously AI is becoming hugely important across all industries, and marketing and market research, and also brand ownership is impacted as well. So we just have a couple of questions on that, just to hope to give you some insights as to, I suppose, the do's and don'ts, I suppose, in terms of AI, particularly marketing and advertising. So there's a lot in it. So while I'm waiting for the last couple of stragglers to come on board, if they do, just a quick introduction. So uniquely in iReach, we have two research panels. One is a consumer research panel of about 40,000 consumers, a business research panel, which has over 9,000 business decision makers across companies of all sizes. So we use those for all our research, face-to-face, qual, quant, focus groups, and so on. We also do some tech savvy stuff, like we have a panel of video at home families, which we use for product testing and media testing. And we have our own research platform called iReach Conversations, where all our members join to take part in our different projects across face-to-face, online, and so on. This particular model is called our consumer omnibus. This is what we've used for this particular research. So over the last few months, we've been asking different questions in different waves of our research. It runs at least twice each month. Sometimes we do more depending on client demands. And it's a really cost-effective way of doing research. It delivers 1,000 responses on a nationally representative basis, which I'll come back to before we start this particular presentation, and we can do standalone projects using our panel at any time. We have built over time a couple of specialist panels, one that may be of interest, particularly if you have an interest in Gen Z or those younger age groups particularly. Our panel is adults 18 plus, which is industry best practices for research. However, we built a panel of those between the kind of fourth year transition year, so about 14 up to 18, to fill that gap, and we use those for a lot of Gen Z, particularly educational type projects. We do focus groups, so I'm just going to go through all of that. And then finally, our newest product, which we launched earlier last year, is called Brand Pulse. And this is a suite of the tools we use for all our members in terms of all the projects we use, is now available for brands, agencies to use directly themselves to create a much more engaged range of research, both qualitative and quantitative, as well as idea generation, co-creation, and so on. And that's our newest offering. So these slides will be shared after the presentation. We are recording the presentation. There's a lot in it, so you don't need to scribble down all of this, but more just as a recap in terms of different generations before we go into more detail. So Gen Z coming of age at the moment. So currently in the age range of 18 to 29 as we speak today, just under 1 million. 2/3 would be, or yeah, 2/3 would be, sorry, 3/4 would be seen as urban, 1/4 rural. Generation Y or millennials, just a little over 1 million, 1.1 million, balanced by gender, and again, heavily urban orientated in terms of where they live. Generation X, so 45 to 59, 60% urban, 40% rural. It's similarly balanced in terms of age. So you can see as our age groups get older, our generations get older, we see stronger rural bias. And then finally, boomers, just over 1 million in Ireland, and reasonably equally split, in fact, slightly more are rural based versus urban based. So that's all there for you for analysis later on. So to kickstart it, we are looking at part one, so the emotional brands with consumers. Just before I start that, I wanted to, and this is our methodology, and it's as much to highlight that the model we use when we talk about nationally representative by age, region, gender, and socioeconomic demographics allows us to calculate population numbers based on all our results. So anything you see here can be directly used to calculate population numbers. So if you have the breakdown by generations and you see the statistics, those of you that are good at maths will be able to see what that means in actual tens or hundreds of thousands of people in Ireland. So that's why I just wanted to share that. So it's incredibly robust and statistically robust with a margin of error plus and minus 2.5%. So this is all about branding. So we wanted to get a sense as to why people have a favorite brand, what is that favorite brand, and how do they engage with that brand? Why is it so important to them? So this was an open-ended question, what we call, so people could put in whatever brand they wanted. 85% said they have a brand, that they have a favorite brand. 15% say they have no favorite brand. When we look at categories, the more popular brands sit within clothes and jewelry brands. Next biggest grouping would be retail food and drinks brands. So that's more of a catch-all across many different retail areas. Beauty and makeup brands are also hugely of interest. Then when we look down other brand or category areas, car brands 8%, airlines, tech 5%, other local Irish brands. So the idea was we wanted to find out what people's favorite brand was, and then walk through their journey as to why it's a favorite brand, what do they like about it, why is it important to them, and hopefully that gives us a learning as to how we can better engage with consumers across any different brand category. So before we actually share some of the top brands, when you see the results over the next few slides, so we'll see the first figure is the all number. So that's everyone. So that represents the total population in Ireland. We have Gen Z, as we've highlighted, that younger age group, Gen Y, millennials, Gen X, and then boomers, those older age groups, 65 plus. And again, there's a lot of data in it, so I'm not expecting you to remember all of this. It's more take this away. As I said, we'll share the deck. You can analyze it in your own pace, or share it with your colleagues or talk through it, but it's more just to allow you to understand the model we use. So the top 5 brands, again, we see in clothing mainly, Adidas and Nike. So if I just read you from left to right, just so you'll know how to interpret it later on. So 9%, that's Gen Z, 10% is Gen Y or millennials, 3% is your Gen X, so that's kind of 45 plus, and then your 2% is boomers, that's your 65 plus. So there are your different comparisons across the different age groups and generations. So you'll see some of these are much stronger. So Nike much stronger for Gen Z, Gen Y versus those older age groups. Dun's really interesting one, and we did kind of talk this through internally, and certainly some of our younger colleagues would certainly stand over this. Becoming hugely popular with Gen Z, some of those younger age groups. Cadbury's, maybe it's because it's close to Easter, but much more popular with older age groups, up to 6% for boomers and so on. Then we see a mix of other brands, Tesco, again, a balance across different age groups, same for Apple and so on. Moving into some of the other brands, more retail, so Marks and Spencer's, Primark next, and so on. And then, yeah, so I don't think there's many surprises there. Again, we've got a mix of different brands. One of the things we would always highlight to our clients when you use what we call open ends, when you're getting people to put in what they think or their favorite brand, it does become very diluted. So while the numbers look quite low, these would be what we call top of mind. So they're very strong in their own right in terms of brands that people like. But as we all know, there's a lot of different brands out there that people engage with. And then just to finish off, and then the top 20. So one of the key things we want to understand is, so everyone has a favorite, well, 85% have a favorite brand. Would they recommend their favorite brand to family and friends? 77% of all adults in Ireland said yes, they would recommend their favorite brand. So it's an extraordinary high figure. This jumps up to the strongest of 81% for millennials, compared to 75% of Gen X in terms of recommending a brand, 73% of boomers. So again, it's really strong when you have that engagement as a brand and you have that loyalty. It's massively important in terms of using that to enhance advocacy and word of mouth, which we know is hugely important. So we asked, when thinking about your favorite brand, how does it make you feel? So we're really trying to understand the emotional triggers as well as logical or commercial triggers with consumers. And again, reading from left to right, 33% of all say being excited is really important or makes them feel excited when they think about their favorite brand. That jumps up to 51% of Gen Z. So it's a huge jump in terms of that level of excitement, that wanting to engage with a brand. Trust and feeling valued are hugely important. They come up next in terms of those emotional connections, emotional triggers. Again, really strong at 22% of Gen Z. But interesting, if you look at far right for boomers at 30%, and we see some continued trends across those different age groups in terms of what's important for a brand to remain engaged with a different age group. Again, being valued, 28% of boomers feel being valued is what their favorite brand makes them feel. And, you know, that I think that's a really strong lesson to learn. Being inspired, 19% of all. That's highest for millennials at 24%. If I jump over to being supported, again, really strong for millennials at 17%. Going back to rewarded, really strong across all the different age groups. And then talks to me at 10% for all age groups. And again, that's highest amongst Gen X. So the idea of being able to analyze data like this by generation is we start building up what we call a profile. We start joining up these different emotional and other triggers together to really start building up a strong picture of each age group, each generation. So I hope I'm not melting people's minds here, but one of the things we do is what we call indexing when we look at data. So in the previous slide, we had everyone compared by percentages. So excited, 33% of everyone. That was over 50% for all. So what indexing allows us to do is highlight the differences between each age group with the all number as well as each other. So even if you don't understand the maths, I wouldn't worry about it too much today. But if you can understand the color coding, so if it's green, it means that this group over-indexed, so they're much more strong. They have a much higher value in terms of comparison to the all number. If it's yellow or orange, that's almost identical to the all number. So it means that it's on par. It's not statistically different to the all number. And then if it's red or pink on your screen, 47%, that shows it's massively under-indexed. So by using this approach, it allows you to visualize much more easily the differences between the age groups with the all number and each other, rather than you having to work out the maths in terms of how much more is 51% over the all number. So this is a really nice, easy way, hopefully, for you to interpret some of the differences in these figures. And we have our final briefing in this series middle of June, where we look at this in more detail in terms of how we build up pictures or personas of these different age groups. So you'll see, again, looking excited, we've covered already, massively over-indexed against the all number. Those boomers we've seen already massively under-indexed. So being excited is so not that important to them. But again, easily we just look over to trusting 1 through 4. So that's saying that they're 34% trust is more important to them than the all number, and you can see how that compares to other generations. And then again for boomers, 122, so that's saying they're 22% higher than the all number, so they over-index. So this is a really, really nice visual way of trying to interpret the data, and you'll be able to see by just looking at green what stands out for that particular age group, or red what under-indexes or what's not as important to them compared to others. Hopefully this will help. On the next slide, so we asked what do people dislike, or what stops people engaging with a brand? What do they dislike about a brand? So 43% say they hate being ripped off, or they don't like the feeling of being ripped off. Being annoyed, impersonal are also key barriers. Not feeling valued or rewarded, not supported, being unloved. So again, quite a range of emotional triggers that stops people, or are barriers to brand engagement. So rather than comparing the percentages directly, we can just see, even just with color coding, being ripped off is really a big factor for Gen Z. Being annoyed is a big factor for Gen Z. Being impersonal, 112, is a big factor for boomers. So we can see by just looking at the colors what really what barriers really disconnect consumers with a particular brand. Not valued, you can see that's highest for millennials. So they're 24% higher than the all number in terms of being not valued, how that's a much bigger barrier to them. Not being rewarded, over 10% higher for Gen Z. Not supported, 55% higher for millennials. So you can see they really want to be supported, really want to be loved, 66% for being unloved. So it allows us to very quickly see what stands out in a particular age group, and as a brand owner, where you need to be careful depending on the age groups or demographics you're targeting. So part 2, interaction and participation with brands. So we wanted, again, staying on the their people's favorite brand, we asked, do they feel that their favorite brand represents their values and lifestyles? So 77% of all adults in Ireland feel that their favorite brand does represent their values and lifestyle. That jumps up to 85% of Gen Z. So it's a really, really strong figure across all the age groups. Even boomers really feel that the brand they like, it does represent them. So that's a real standout figure across all ages, all generations. Do people feel part of their favorite brand's community? 57% say they do, and that's all adults. That jumps up to 75% of Gen Z. So they feel and want to get engaged with the brand and the wider brand community. And that drops down to 51% of boomers. But again, still quite strong across different age groups, over 1 and 2 of all age groups. Gen Y, Gen X, and boomers do see themselves part of that brand. So it stands out for all those generations. And this is one we've worked a lot on in retail, in terms of being proud to be seen with the brand, being proud to use the brand, be proud to see what a particular bag from their favorite retailer or brand, fashion brand, for example. 63% of all adults say yes, they are proud to use or be seen with their favorite brand. Again, that is highest, or it over indexes most, for Gen Y. But again, very strong. Again, 6 out of 10 across the other age groups as well feel that they're proud to use to be seen with their favorite brand. So these are really important emotional triggers that brands can engage with and focus on to deepen engagement with their customers. However, I think when we ask why such triggers, or why they have a favorite brand, the key thing that stands out, which I think this is a key lesson, certainly for me, from this particular survey, is ultimately good quality product service stands out as the most important factor in terms of being engaged with their favorite brand, and it's pretty consistent across all age groups. And then we see a massive fall off in terms of other areas that maybe brands spend a lot of time on, in terms of branding, how it looks, being positive, being seen positively, that Irishness. So while they're there and they are important triggers, if you don't have good quality of product or service, I think most of those other emotional connections really don't make up the shortfall. Reputation, affordability, sustainability, charitability. Again, while they're there, they really aren't the standout trigger. So ultimately, it's about quality of service first, and then there are other emotional triggers that can deepen and strengthen brand engagement, but without good quality of service or product quality, that's going to be a huge challenge. We ask, do people's favorite brand make them feel valued as a customer? 6 in 10 or 61% said yes, it does. Again, that jumps up to 78% of Gen Z, but again, almost 6 in 10 for the other age groups, averaging about 60%. So again, still there. However, 39%, sorry, don't feel, even though it's their favorite brand, make them feel special or valued. Now, again, that might depend on a brand. If maybe if it's a a car brand or an airline or a utility. But again, that's high, as you can see, for those older age groups, all over 40%. So it really is, I suppose, something that brands can consider and can do if they do better sometimes. We ask in terms of the emotional engagement with their favorite brand across other measures. So again, one of the standout areas in terms of that brand association is confidence in the brand. So again, that's quite a consistent figure across all age groups. You'll see 46 for everyone, and all the other age groups are significantly over 40%. Trust is hugely important, highest for those older age groups, those boomers. Joy or enjoyment in the brand, pride in the brand, again, are also strong emotional connections in terms of brands. Many brands focus on particularly in advertising, nostalgia, which was popular a couple of years ago. Again, less important as an association. Empowerment, equally less important as association. However, if we look at Gen Z, 24% feel empowered in relation to their favorite brand, which I think is really interesting. We asked, again, based on their favorite brand, do consumers share content? So 33% at some stage have shared content in relation to their favorite brand. That's not just sharing on social media, that's talking with family or friends. That jumps up to something like, 33% of Gen Z, 33% of Gen Z regularly sharing content, plus another 18%. A combined 51% will share content occasionally or regularly amongst the Gen Z community. So just using our indexing, just to make it easier for you to interpret. So those that regularly share content, you'll see 180, 141, Gen Z and millennials. That's huge compared to the other age groups. Occasionally, 144, so 44% more of Gen Z share content than everyone else in Ireland. So again, you can see who are the sharers, both in terms of those regular sharers and occasional sharers of experiences in relation to their favorite brand. Moving swiftly along to loyalty. I know most brands are always focused on how to maximize loyalty, and we know it's important in terms of advocacy. So we asked a series of statements, and the first one is, do you feel excited when you see new content or products from your favorite brand? 71% say yes, they do. And 19% say yes, always. And obviously that will vary across different brand categories. However, this jumps up to 83% of Gen Z. So again, that engagement in terms of excitement, enjoyment comes out really, really strongly, and a lot less so for other age groups. We asked then, how strongly do they feel a sense of loyalty to their favorite brand? 60% say yes, they feel loyal. And it's, again, apart from Gen Z, it's 73%. The others are quite strong, over 2 and 3, and nearly 60%. So again, that loyalty is really strong across the ages, but again, higher amongst Gen Z in terms of that particular statement. Connected to that, and if you look at your kind of brand funnel from in terms of loyalty to intent to purchase, we ask in terms of, are you likely to continue to purchase from your favorite brand? 50%, which is huge, are saying they're very likely to continue to buy from their favorite brand. plus 30% that are likely. So it's a huge figure if you have that loyalty with your customer that they will continue to buy. And again, quite consistent across the different age groups from 86 to 82 amongst boomers. So again, that loyalty, as we know, and this shows, does translate into continued purchase consideration and purchase intent. Again, reasons for this loyalty. So again, we come back to quality and service, as we've highlighted already. 53% of those that feel loyal to a brand state this. And again, that supports what we've seen already. Again, very consistent across the different age groups, so not a huge difference there. And then some of it is always bought from them, 14%. Some people just do. Maybe it's easier to keep buying what you know, that you don't have to shop around. Affordability and loyalty rewards come up as other key reasons for that brand engagement, that brand loyalty. Other reasons: Irishness, that emotional connection, trust, and you'll see they vary across the different age groups. Similar value, sustainability as the lowest, where again, while for many, and we do a lot of research around sustainability, it's almost nice to have, but if the fundamentals aren't right, it doesn't really matter. And I think this slide kind of highlights that. Then we look at why people aren't or don't see themselves as loyal to a brand. It's just a brand, and again, that will vary with the brand category. And again, I think this is a really interesting one. 33% of people who don't feel totally loyal to a single or a favorite brand, they like shopping around. High at Gen Z at 46%, strong for millennials at 30%, and boomers 41%. So that shopping around, looking maybe for value for money. It's got to do with costs, or people don't feel they're being rewarded for their loyalty. Again, that's highest at 12% for millennials. So again, you'll see some variances across different age groups, but I think the common themes are probably consistent. We asked the question, this is kind of your hard question in terms of where you're going to put your money. Have you ever paid more for this brand over a cheaper alternative? So 45% say they don't shop around, they're loyal to their brand, and that's highest at 56% of boomers. So it's really interesting in terms of that retained or ongoing loyalty can be very strong. It's at lowest at Gen Z, at only 33%. But then if we look at Gen Z in terms of they often shop around for alternatives, they will always shop around for alternatives, are higher than all the other age groups. So Gen Z, again, they're more cost conscious. Maybe they're more open to different brands or newer brands, but certainly those older age groups show a much stronger level of retained loyalty in terms of paying for that little bit more over their favorite brand. One of the areas that we do a lot of work in is obviously messaging, advertising, helping clients make sure they get the right ad, the right messaging to their target audience. So we asked, do you agree that your favorite brand's messaging and storytelling resonates with you? So again, 54% say yes, it does resonate, 38% agree. This jumps up to 67% for Gen Z, but again, very strong over 1 and 2 for the other age groups, 53, 52, and 49. So that messaging is a key area for brands to consider. And I think this is where why Gen Z and these generations have become interesting for brands, is that, you know, you're targeting a smaller audience, you're looking for a target rich audience, let's call it your bullseye audience. And that's where people are beginning to understand that advertising needs to talk to a particular age or demographic and not necessarily everyone in the market. Does your favorite brand ads or campaigns make you feel something meaningful? 46% of everyone says yes, they do. That jumps up to 6% of Gen Z, but still over 40% for the other age groups. So again, it's that connection, both in terms of the language, the campaigns, the advertising, that talks to that particular target market. In this case, we're looking at generations. But as we look at it, those of you interested in our final presentation in the series, we're looking at overlaying other variables to create personas. That's like lifestyle, hobbies, interests, as well as transactional data. Irishness obviously is important to us all here. 61% say they do like that Irishness of the brand, their favorite brand. Again, that jumps up to a massive 86% of Gen Z, but again, very strong amongst those other age groups. So again, that's really interesting to tap into that Irishness. Social issues. Do you agree that your brand, your favorite brand, because they focus on social issues, you are more loyal to them? 57% say they do. Again, 14% say they do strongly. So again, it's one of those areas that brands can consider and that does work. But again, on top of or layered against other triggers, especially good product quality and service. Again, 77% of Gen Z agree with that. So they're engaged with those charitable issues. But again, certainly over 50% and up to nearly 60% of other age groups agree with that in terms of engagement. I guess in our business, we know the importance of customer surveys and gaining opinions from customers. However, it's always good to ask the consumer, do they agree with this? So 56%, yes, they do agree that being asked for feedback from their favorite brand does make the brand more engaging, which I think is really interesting. And again, that jumps up to 67% of Gen Z and 6% of millennials. So I think they do feel being asked for input, being asked for opinions, does engage and make them feel more engaged with the brand in terms of helping them, their favorite brands, move their strategy forward. Storytelling, again, 46% say it does help engagement. And again, that jumps up to 69% for Gen Z. So we can see that messaging, the engagement, the storytelling, the ad campaigns and whatever can work and does work in terms of engagement with people's favorite brand. Obviously that changes per category. Sharing true stories. So would you engage with your favorite, or do you engage with your favorite brand because it allows you to share stories? 35% agree with that. So that's probably one of the lower areas. Again, no surprise that jumps up to 64% of Gen Z. So not much shy of being double. So the last couple of slides, again, the question we asked here, and this is definitely one to take away. The question we asked here is what top three of the following will make you feel more special and understood? So things like VIP access. So again, people feeling like they're getting something that everyone else isn't getting. So early access, more personalization, which we know can be a challenge. Many organizations are working on improved CRM and trying to provide more targeted content, but things that work well, special one-off discounts, birthday messages, live events and experiences come up as the other in the top three of those, I suppose, triggers to better engagement. We asked them what would make you more, or what would encourage you to be more loyal, to spend more. So things like cashbacks or discounts, so money back incentives. Point-based rewards, we know they're hugely popular, especially in retail. Loyalty cards, we know, are hugely popular. So they work, and they're serious. You can see here that they're really stand out in terms of things that brands can do to make and encourage repeat purchases and increase loyalty. So this is probably a good conclusion slide. So the question we asked here, and as I said, I repeatedly mentioned about if you don't have good quality product or service, many of these things don't work. So it's quite a long-winded question, but we asked, does the combination of personalized experience, emotional storytelling, community engagement, as well as reward for loyalty, turn you and other customers into loyal advocates? 66% of all adults in Ireland said yes, that mix of experiences, emotional connections, community engagement will make them more loyal. So that's a really important figure, I think, where it highlights that get the basics right, and then using and layering other initiatives on top of the basics really can massively drive loyalty. That jumps up to 82% of Gen Z, but way over 60% of the other age groups as well. So it's a real standout figure and probably a good conclusion for this presentation. in terms of what works and what really drives engagement. So just to finalize and finish off, we just wanted to really get a sense as to what's happening with AI, particularly in marketing and particularly in relation to brand engagement. So it's only 3 questions. So we asked, would the use of your favorite brand, would the use of AI from your favorite brand in their marketing affect your ability to connect with the brand? So does it make you feel that you're still able to connect at a personal level? So 48% say no, it doesn't, or say no, it doesn't. So they feel they'll connect less. That's highest amongst boomers at 66%. So those older age groups feel that AI will make them disconnect from a brand. They sense that it's not going to make it feel personal. If we look at those who feel that AI will make them connect with the brand more, 10%, but that's double the amount of Gen Z. So 22% say yes, they will connect more with the brand with the effect of AI in marketing. 15% of millennials. So those younger age groups kind of go, yeah, it's fine. If it helps my shopping experience and my brand experience improve, they're happy with that. I suppose often we forget about the neutral number, the number in the middle. 42% says it has no impact, and that kind of just slightly under 1 and 2 of all the other age groups. However, boomers are very much against AI in terms of that personal disconnect. And maybe it's an awareness of technology or fear of technology, but it's interesting and a reminder that while AI is very good in a lot of areas, not to overuse it in marketing in terms of personal engagement with customers. And that's just showing the index there, which I probably should have done first. Then the next question we asked will the use of AI in marketing have an impact on trust? So 50% will feel that AI will make them trust a brand less. That jumps up to 65% of boomers. So it's not just feeling impersonal, it's also the trust. Again, 10% say it will make them trust them more. Again, really over-indexing, highly over-indexing for Gen Z. So over 200% higher, almost 200% higher for millennials at 190. Those older age groups saying it has no effect. 115 for Gen X and Gen Boomers, just kind of ignore it. But then again, for those that feel that trust will be eroded, again, as I've already highlighted, that's highest amongst boomers at 30% over all adults. And then the final question on this, just quick touch point on AI. We asked then if you hear AI voice or the tone, I guess, for an ad, for a brand, again, how will that impact on your perception of the brand? So again, strong feelings, 50% will feel that it will make them feel more negative to the brand. Again, highest amongst boomers at 64%. Again, 4 and 10 say won't impact their perception. And then when we look at the tone of voice will make them feel more positive to a brand. Again, double the norm for Gen Z and almost 60% above the norm for millennials. So again, younger age groups feel more open to adoption of AI. Older age groups, if that's your target market, will feel disconnected and more negative to a brand based on the use of AI tone and voice. So that was a lot to get through, and thank you for your patience. In terms of conclusions, I think the last slide, or the third last slide, in terms of, get the basics right, get the product right, get the services right, and then there's huge opportunities across different generations to deepen loyalty, deepen engagement, deepen participation in a community. And that does translate into increased loyalty, increased purchase intent, and increased purchases. So I think that's hopefully a useful learning. And then in terms of the indexing, I think that's just a nice way to visualize how different age groups vary in terms of their views. But what we'll be talking about in the next presentation on